Hello, Guidance 3, and welcome to Career Exploration and Career Paths. Today we're going to be talking about career exploration, what it is, how you can do it, how we plan to do it in this class, kind of the nuts and bolts of career exploration, and major exploration as well, so we can kind of figure out the middle of those two as it relates to whatever it is that you're thinking about doing. Okay. Before we get into it, I just want to touch on this. Really important that when you guys are clicking through your modules and the discussions, make sure that you're responding to each discussion post. Okay, some weeks will have more than one discussion. I think it's week 2, if I'm not mistaken, has 2 different discussions. And I noticed that some of us are responding to one and not the other one. It's really important that you have the opportunity to kind of take the things that you're learning and the things that are in your mind, put them down on paper, put them in the online discussion forum, so you can start being reflective about some of these things, right? And keep in mind, as per the syllabus, at the end of the semester, all of these discussions are going to be calculated into your points for participation. Okay, so really important that you guys are getting that done and you're giving yourself the opportunity to respond to those, read what other students are doing, and start reflecting on that process. Okay, all right, let's get into it. So some things to kind of consider as it relates to career exploration. Okay, this is from the textbook, so you guys should have already read this, but according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average workday for a person is about 8 hours, 8.7 hours long. Okay, that's the average workday. Okay, so if we're looking at that as the average workday, if we're doing the math here, 5 days a week, maybe 50 weeks in a year, because you have a couple weeks off for vacation, hopefully, if you got a cool boss that gives you some vacation time, over a 35-year work career, right? That's over 76,000 hours of work that we'll all be doing in a lifetime. Okay, this is not designed to scare you, even though that could be a scary number. But what it is designed to do is really speak to the importance of this work that you are all doing in this class, right? The importance of doing major exploration, doing career exploration, and really doing the work to try to make sure that we choose something that is as best as we can for ourselves. Okay, now that's not to say that you're going to choose something that you're going to end up doing for the rest of your life. Right? You may not. You may decide to do a career change when you're, 10, 15 years into whatever career that you choose. That's totally okay, as long as you're doing the career exploration and the work to research what it is that you're changing to make sure that at that time in your life it's a good fit. Okay, so again, this isn't designed to scare you, but I think it does speak to the importance of the work that we're doing in the class and the importance of understanding how to, conduct meaningful and targeted and directed career exploration. Okay, the book talks about the 5-step process for choosing your career. Okay, and I think that this is a really nice, clear, and concise way to kind of break down career exploration. Okay, so the 5 steps are as follows. The first is get to know yourself, right? We got to do some work to get to know ourselves. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit more into depth into each one of these steps as we go on further into this presentation. Okay, first one, get to know yourself. Do the work to figure out who you are. Okay. The second one is we have to get to know the field that we're interested in, right? The more research we can do about whatever we're thinking about getting into, the better. The more information that you can have, the better. That's going to help you make, hopefully, a more sound and a more reasonable decision, right? So you got to get to know yourself, get to know your field, okay? Number 3, prioritize your deal makers and rule out your deal breakers, okay? Prioritize your deal makers, rule out your deal breakers. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as we get through this, okay? Number 4, make a decision, right? Make a decision and create a plan of action. You're not going to be stuck with whatever choice that you choose, right? But in order for us to create a plan, we have to know what we're creating the plan for, right? And I think this trips students up a lot, I find, where you don't want to make a decision because you feel like you might be stuck with that decision. You feel like you may be not ready to make that decision. Making a preliminary career decision doesn't mean that you're marrying this idea of becoming whatever it is that you're thinking about. But what it does mean is that we're going to commit to learning about this, and we're going to commit to learning as much as we can so we can create that plan of action in a targeted way, right? And then lastly, go out and get it done. We've created this action plan. Now we go out and we got to go achieve it. Okay, so we got to get to know ourselves. We got to get to know our field. Prioritize what are our deal makers and our deal breakers. Make a decision, and then go and achieve it. Okay, the 5-step process for choosing your career. Okay, step 1: get to know yourself. How do we do that, Mr. McLaren? I'm glad you asked, Guidance 3. The first thing that we can do, let's take assessments to learn more about ourselves, right? We're going to be doing a lot of that in this course, okay? So personality inventories like the MBTI, right? Where we get an idea of maybe who we are right now, right? Our personalities right now and how those things, those aspects of our personalities kind of intersect with different work, okay? Interest inventories, right? We're going to be doing that in this class, a strong interest inventory. And really what an interest inventory is, it takes an inventory of all your interests, right? It's exactly what it sounds like. It takes an inventory of all your interests, and then it would suggest different fields or different careers that you might be interested in based off the information that you've provided in the inventory, right? Again, these aren't things that you're stuck with. If you decide to, if you do an inventory and it pops up a bunch of careers that you have no interest in, that's totally fine. Let's do some reflective work now and figure out why would these careers might have come up this way, okay? Value assessments, we have one coming up in the following week, okay? So doing some value assessments, even just kind of sitting with ourselves and being like, what are the things that I value? What are my core personal values and how do those things relate to work, okay? Skills assessments, right? Figuring out what our skills are. Figuring out what skills we might still need in order to be successful in whatever field, right? Sometimes I think we can be a little hard on ourselves in terms of evaluating and assessing our skills. And there's a good chance that you all probably have a long list of skills that maybe you don't give yourself enough credit for, okay? Another really good way for us to get to know ourselves is just taking some time to do some personal reflection, okay? Thinking about, what skills and abilities come naturally to you, right? What are some things that I've always been good at? Maybe you've always had an affinity for math and you've been really good at it. You just got a knack for it, right? Maybe you've always been a good writer. You're somebody who's really good at writing. You can really put your thoughts down on paper. Maybe you're somebody that's a really great communicator or public speaker. Just kind of start thinking about what skills and abilities do you naturally have, right? And then conversely, what skills do you think you might need to develop, right? So if you're really, I know for myself, I was always really good at writing. I was really bad at math, right? And so I didn't choose a career where I had to do a bunch of math, but if I wanted to maybe, let's say, be an accountant, I know that would be an area, those would be some skills that I would need to develop, right? So once I've identified those, I need to develop these skills. Now I got to figure out what I can do and where I can go to develop those skills, okay? What does your adult life look like to you? Right? So as you're going through and you're thinking about what major and what career, I also encourage you to start thinking like, what does your life look like to you? Do you want a job where you're working 8.7 hours a day? Do you want a job where you're working inside? Do you want a job where you're working outside? Right? What does your life look like to you? Okay? That can be a really important question to ask yourselves because some careers might not necessarily allow you to live the life that you want to live. Okay? What are your stressors and what are your anxieties, right? This can sometimes be a difficult question to really think about honestly and answer honestly, but I think it's very important when we're talking about different careers, right? If you're somebody that doesn't necessarily like to be put in high pressure situations, then maybe being something like a nurse or ER doctor might not make sense for you, right? If you don't like necessarily working in big groups of people, right? Then maybe you don't want to work in a field where you have to collaborate a lot. Maybe you prefer to be in an office by yourself in front of a computer, just kind of doing the work yourself, right? So what are some of your stressors? What are some of your anxieties? And how can we either create a plan to overcome those obstacles so that you can do the career that you want? Or how can we maybe avoid some of those things so that they don't interfere with whatever it is your career goal is, okay? Step 2, get to know your field, right? We're going to conduct informational interviews. We're going to get a chance, hopefully you'll all get a chance to speak to somebody in the field that you're interested in doing, right? That you're interested in entering and getting to hear it firsthand from somebody that does the work, right? Visit your career centers. So for those of you in high school, good chance that you have a career center. Visit your career center and see what they can do for you. See what types of resources they have for you, so that you can learn more about not only the career that you're getting yourself into, but the overall field, okay? You can also visit the Career Center at Chapin College. Even right now, there's online versions of workshops where you can speak to a career counselor to learn more about whatever career it is that you're thinking about entering, okay? So visit your Career Center. Those resources are waiting to be used for you, okay? Visit career-related websites to conduct research on a particular field, right? We're going to have a bunch of different websites that we use in this class that hopefully you will all be experts in utilizing by the end of the class, so that we're not just going on like Wikipedia or just going on Google, right? That we're going to career-related websites that are targeted and specific with the information that you absolutely need, that you'll find valuable, okay? Find out what you need in order to achieve your goal, right? Depending on the career that you choose, do you need a license? What kind of degree do you need? We kind of talked about this in the educational options presentation. But let's figure out what we need in order to achieve our goal so that when we do create that plan makes sense and it has everything included in it, okay? What skills do we need in order to be successful? What educational preparation do we need for the career? What volunteer or internship opportunities can we start looking at right now that would best prepare us for that career? All of those things are things that we can do, right? To not only prepare yourself, but to get to know your field and set yourself up for success, okay? And then lastly, meet with your college counselor, right? Meet with your JV counselor, meet with your high school counselor, wherever it is that you're at right now. Meet with your counselor to come up with that plan, right? Hey, what other things do you think that I could be doing to best prepare myself to be X? Okay, super important. Get to know our field. We got to do it. Okay. Step 3, prioritize our deal makers. Okay, what does that mean? So essentially what we're talking about prioritizing your deal makers, what are some things that you absolutely need in a career, right? Start thinking about that. What are some things that you absolutely need? That if you do not have this, this is not a career that you could join. Okay, this is not a career that you could be a part of, right? So creating a pros and cons list. What are some things that I absolutely need in a career? Maybe it's stability. Maybe it's healthcare. Maybe it's tuition reimbursement, whatever the case may be. Let's start thinking about what are our deal makers, the things that we absolutely need to have before we can enter any career, right? This is something that I think we should do now, because what we'd hate for to happen is you get into the career just to figure out that the thing that you absolutely needed isn't available to you. Okay, super important. What things are you not willing to accept? Okay, what things are you not willing to accept? Right, so not only the things that you absolutely need, but the things you will absolutely not deal with, right? Start thinking about those things now, okay? Have you considered things like vacation time? How important is that to you, right? And that first slide, we talked about working 50 weeks a year. So if you're only getting a couple of weeks of vacation every year, is that, because of the career that you've chosen, is that something that you're okay with, right? Do you want to have vacation time? Do you want to work for a company that gives you more? Do you want to work in a field that gives you more, right? Maternity or paternity leave. Maybe some of you already are parents. If you're planning on wanting to be a parent, do you want to work in a career or for a company that offers maternity or paternity leave? Or would you rather work somewhere where you're getting paid hourly and you're only getting paid when you do the work? Okay, something to think about, and I think it's super duper important to start kind of playing with these things in your mind right now. Okay, company reputation or history, does that matter to you? Okay, I've worked with a lot of students who want to maybe do something like, let's say, banking, but don't want to work with a particular bank because of the reputation or the history that they've had. Maybe that bank has done some bad things in the community, for example. I'm not naming any banks, but maybe they've done some bad things in the community, and that's not something that aligns with your values, right? So company reputation or history, right? Do you want to work for a company that gives back to their community, that does this, that does that? Are those things important to you? If not, then that's totally fine too, right? Again, like I mentioned earlier, do you want to work indoors? Do you want to work outdoors? Do you want to have the opportunity to work from home, to work remotely? Do you want a job that allows you to travel, that encourages you to travel, right? Oftentimes I find that when I work with younger students, they want jobs that can travel. And then they become older students, they become adults, and they're like, yeah, I'd like to be home a little bit more, right? But again, if you're thinking about maybe having a family down the road, or you have one, how much can you travel? Does that keep you away from your family? Are you going to be missing important, milestones in your children's lives, right? So prioritize your deal maker. Start thinking about the things you need in a career and things you're absolutely not willing to accept. Okay, very important. Room for growth. Does this career, does this company, does this position offer you room for growth? Or is this it? Once you get into this role, that's the top, right? Start thinking about some of these things. Start playing with some of these things in your head already, okay? Step 4, make a preliminary career decision, okay? This is one that I think is super duper important and something that I think presents an obstacle for a lot of students. And it's hard, right? It's hard, but give it a shot, right? Make a decision and give it a shot. The only reason that we would be making the decision is so that we can create a plan, right? So it doesn't mean that if you make this decision, you are stuck with this career. That's absolutely not the case. But what is the case is that we got to make a decision in order for us to make a plan, okay? Very, very important. Career exploration is a cycle, okay? What that means is that we would go through all 5 of these steps, and if at the end of step number 5, you decide, you know what, this career isn't for me, that's totally 100% cool. Then we just start the process over again, right? And that's why I would encourage you to not be scared of making a decision now so that we can create a plan towards that goal. Because if we decide now, hey, you know what, we've done all of this work, we've done all 5 steps, and we figured out, you know what, this just isn't for me, we can start this process over again early enough that you haven't gone too far down the path, right? If we do this work now, we don't have to do it once you're already in the career and you have the degree for a specific career, and then you figure out, oh man, this is the worst, I hate this, right? We can do this work now. Career exploration is designed to be a cycle, okay? So make a preliminary career decision so we can create a plan towards that career, okay? And again, you're not stuck with it just because we choose it, right? We can always change our mind as long as we are changing our mind informed, okay? Step 5, let's go out and achieve our goal. So we've made this decision, we're going to create this plan, now we got to go and execute it, okay? So we're going to identify which short-term and long-term goals that we'll have to reach in order to get to the ultimate one, right? What are some smaller goals? We can kind of chunk them up a little bit, some smaller steps, smaller goals that we can set, little small achievable goals too, right? It's got to be achievable, things that you can actually get done in a reasonable amount of time. But let's set some smaller goals that we can reach so that we can get to this ultimate goal of becoming whatever it is that we're hoping to become, okay? Making a career action plan, right? Creating a skills-based education plan. Some of you in your discussions for week 2 talked about wanting to identify what skills that you might need for a particular career, and then figuring out how would you get them, right? We have an activity in this class where we're going to be talking about the general education patterns that we had mentioned in week 2. And in those general education patterns, you're going to find all kinds of different classes that could help you get the skills that you might need, right? So let's say you want to be a business professional and you're just not great with computers. That might be a class to take. That would be a skills-based education plan. We're going to plan classes for you that are going to help you build the skills that you need in order to be successful in whatever career that you're looking to do, right? Let's say you want to be a researcher and you have to present your research, maybe taking a class in public speaking so you can work on your public speaking skills, right? That would be a career action plan. That would be a skills-based education plan. So every course that we take is going to be working towards your goal and helping to prepare you and build your skills for that goal, okay? Job and internship searches, right? So we kind of talked about it in the previous slide. What job opportunities, what internship, what volunteer opportunities can I go and seek out right now that would give me the skills and help build my skills towards whatever my end goal is, right? That's us creating the plan and then going out to execute it and going out to achieve that goal, okay? Super important. Okay, in our textbook, they talk a lot about the differences between a job and a career, right? And I think sometimes we talk about these things interchangeably, and sometimes they can be discussed interchangeably. But I think there are some stark differences, some real inherent differences that help to kind of frame the work that we do in this class, and hopefully the career exploration work that you'll be doing throughout your entire professional life, okay? So when we're talking about a job according to the text, we're really talking about the work that a person performs for a living, right? The kind of the tasks that are completed as part of the routine of an occupation. Okay, so just kind of like your day-to-day tasks that you have to do in order to complete whatever job that you do, right? Oftentimes when we're speaking about a job, it's more of a short-time thing that we're talking about, right? We're not talking about something that's a long-term, I'm going to be doing this particular job for the rest of my life, right? So oftentimes it's more short time. more short term with no plans for you to stay for a considerable amount of time. It's just kind of a means to an end. I'm going to work this job right now because I got a couple bills that I got to pay, and then I'll worry about whatever my career is later. Okay. Oftentimes when you are in a quote unquote job, you're paid hourly, right? And usually jobs are things that you can attain with on-the-job training, right? So really what that means is you don't necessarily have to do a bunch of education or a bunch of skills, skill learning in order to do that, right? You can go and you can get a job at the hardware store up the street, and with on-the-job training, they'll teach you how to do that, okay? When we're talking about a career, oh, I'm sorry, and lastly, it's a little bit less secure, right? Jobs are not necessarily things that are secure. Okay. When we're talking about career, what we're really talking about is an occupation that you undertake for a significant period of time, right? So if a job is a little bit more short term, career is going to be a little bit more long term, right? This is my career. This is what I do, and I'm going to continue to do until I retire, right? Usually a career requires a certain level of education, right? So usually, that's not always the case, but usually when we speak about a career, you need a certain level of education to kind of enter that field and do whatever it is that we're talking about, okay? Typically, it provides opportunities to advance your skills and advance your positionality, right? So you can move up. So again, and conversely, when we're talking about job on the left-hand side, usually short-term, no plans to really stay, kind of no real room for growth, whereas a career gives you those opportunities to advance, to move up, and to grow, okay? Typically, it's a long-term pursuit. We kind of talked about that when we're talking about a career. Oftentimes, you're going to be paid salary, right? So where jobs, you're going to be paid hourly. In a career, you're going to get like a yearly salary, right? An annual salary that has some more security. It's going to have benefits like healthcare and dental and so on and so forth, okay? And we also have a couple of really cool videos this week that kind of talk about the differences between job versus career, especially the Chris Rock one. I think you guys will really like that one, okay? When we're speaking about a job, a series of tasks or activities performed within the scope of what we call work, right? I'm going to go to this place. I'm going to do X, Y, Z. They're going to reimburse me for my time with money, hourly. That's my job, okay? Normally, it allows us to enjoy a minimal amount of financial security, right? This is really about what we're talking about, the difference between, being paid hourly and being paid a salary with that security and that benefits, right? When we're talking about a career, what we're really talking about is the integration of your personality with your job activities, right? And what that really means is that your career becomes part of your identity, almost a primary part of your identity, right? I think this becomes really true, especially when you when you go to the grocery store and you see your teacher at the grocery store, you're like, oh, I didn't think that you also buy groceries and you eat food because you're just my teacher, right? That's why sometimes it can be like weird to see people that you know as professionals in different spaces doing other things, right? I know when I was in high school and I would see my teacher at the supermarket, I'd be like, oh, Miss Scott just buys groceries too, like everybody else. That's weird. And the reason why is because I only know her as a teacher, right? And a lot of the times when you're in a particular career, you find people speak like that. I am a dentist, right? I am a professor. I am a counselor. That's who I am. It becomes part of your identity. It's a primary part of your identity, right? And it also allows for the opportunity of field mastery, right? It allows you to become a master in whatever field that you're in, as well as opportunities for professional development, personal and financial satisfaction, okay? So really the kind of two differences between a job, or the key differences, sorry, between a job and a career, okay? Not necessarily the same thing. Okay, so begin with the end in mind. We've talked about this a lot in this class, but again, I think it's really, really important. And when we're speaking about career exploration, we always want to start with the end in mind. Okay, we've spoken earlier about how a GPS works. It needs to know where you're going and needs to know where you're at, right? It needs those two things. Okay, so we're beginning with the end in mind. We're going to start with the career, right? So we're going to explore our options with a career counselor. You're going to search up salary. You're going to look at all of the different things that you could look at to learn about that career. What do I want to do? Do all this research. Is this right for me? Okay, start with the end in mind. Once we start with the career, we're going to work backwards. We're going to figure out, okay, if I want to do X, what is the best major that will prepare me to do this work the best? right? What major is going to give me the skills that I need so I can be a marketable candidate in the career, right? And once we've determined what the major is, now we're going to go back and we're going to try to figure out what school has the best preparation for me. Okay, that doesn't necessarily mean what school has the best business program, right? Or what school is ranked the top in this field, right? Because what works for you might not work for somebody else, right? The best school could be the one that gives you the most support. The best school could be the one that is closest to home because you need to be close to your family for whatever reasons, right? So when I talk about the best school to prepare you, that doesn't necessarily mean whoever's, number one on the top 20 schools list, right? Really what it means is what is the best school for you. And I really encourage you, as you start thinking about where you want to go to school, be very concerned with what your needs are, right? Because whatever school best fits your needs, that's the best school for you to be at, not necessarily the one with the fanciest name and the biggest tuition cost. Okay, really, really important that you kind of keep that near and dear, because I think a lot of students sometimes get caught up with the name of the school and the ranking as opposed to whether or not it's a good fit for them, right? When I was looking at schools to go and do my master's program at, there's a couple of schools, and I'm not going to name them, that I would walk the campus and I would be like, I don't see myself here. There's no chance that I would be successful in a place that feels like this, right? I would go and visit the actual counseling departments to meet the people that I would be working with during my master's program. And if I didn't feel like we had a good connection, I was like, you know what? I'm not sure if these are the people that should be advocating for me because I don't think that they have my best interest at heart. Let me maybe go somewhere else. Okay, so when we're talking about the best school to prepare you, that does not necessarily mean that the number one school on some list. It's really about what's the best school for you. Okay, who's going to really have your interests at heart. Really, really important. Okay, when selecting a major, what are some things that we should be thinking about? Okay, so when we're talking about a major, really what we're talking about is the academic discipline that you commit to as an undergraduate student. Okay, normally what will happen is that your major is going to be kind of like both specific and broad. Okay, so the general areas of specialization like business. So let's say you decide that you want to major in business. That would be your major. That's going to be the academic discipline that you study. But within that generalized area, you can get like even more specific. So sometimes what you'll find is that schools will have a major in business administration with a focus or an emphasis or a concentration in entrepreneurship. So maybe you want to own your own business, right? You don't want to learn how to help somebody else's business do well. You want to learn how to help your business do well. You can major in something like business and specialize in entrepreneurship or human resources or management or marketing or finance or real estate, right? All kinds of different options. Oftentimes, if you're doing something like sociology, right? Your generalized area of specialization would be sociology, but you can get that emphasis in maybe social work or maybe human services, right? So you might have an opportunity to get even more specialized within that major. Okay, so something to think about. And ideally, what should happen is that whatever major you choose should provide you with the knowledge, the skills, attitudes, or behaviors to meet your goals, right? That's really what we're hoping to do when we choose any major. So what major can we choose that's going to give you and equip you with all the skills that you need to do whatever it is you're trying to do, okay? Now, every major is not going to be built the same at every school. So it's important that we do our research, right? Some schools might teach you different aspects of that major. So business administration is not necessarily going to be the exact same across the board. Okay, so it's really important that we figure out what it is you want to do with business administration and then figure out what program is best going to prepare you to do the exact thing that you want to do, right? And again, once we find that, that's going to be the best school for you likely, okay? So when the book talks a little bit about some things that it might have you consider when you're selecting your major, okay? So the first one is to seek inspiration, right? Let's figure out, what you want to do, why you want to do it, right? What inspires you to do this, right? The second one, and maybe what I think is the most important, is consider everything. Many of you talked in your discussion posts that, you're thinking about this, but you're keeping your options open. You might want to do social work. You're thinking that you want to do criminology, but you also want to keep your options open. And I think that's super, super important because, again, there might be 2 or 3 or 100 things that you might just not know yet that you already have the skills and the aptitudes for, right? That you would be a perfect fit for, that you would be great at. We just don't know what it is yet, right? And hopefully throughout this class, we're going to be able to kind of unearth some of those things so you can see them, okay? So consider everything. Be open, right? Identify your talents and your interests. Identify the things that you're good at. Identify the things that you like to do or even don't mind doing, right? Not everybody necessarily finds a career that they love to do. But you might find something that you're like, yeah, I'm cool with this, right? Sometimes that can make it hard to make a decision. I know when I was doing career exploration for the first time, I was working with my counselor and he was like, what about this? I'm like, yeah, it seems fine. And what about this? I'm like, yeah, that's cool too. And what about this? I go, yeah, it's all fine. I could do all of them, right? And that made it hard for me to choose. But I was definitely open to the idea of considering everything and being like, yeah, I could see myself doing a bunch of different things, right? So identify your talents and your interests so that we could really find how those things align with different careers, okay? Explore the available resources. So again, getting to your career center, whether that's at your high school or at Chaffey College, right? Let's go and learn as much as we can. If you're thinking about getting into law, you're thinking about being maybe an officer of the law, speaking to your local police department, going on a ride-along. Maybe that's a resource that's available to you, right? Maybe you go for a ride-along and you go, I love this. This is exactly what I want to do. Or you go, there's no way I'm doing this, right? Explore the available resources and take advantage of them. Use them. That's why they're there for you, right? And then lastly, we're going to do in-depth career exploration, which is exactly what this course is about, right? So these are kind of 5 steps to help you try to select a major. So just, again, these aren't things that I'm asking you to necessarily do, but definitely things I would encourage you to keep in mind as you're going about selecting your major, okay? Seek inspiration, keep everything on the table, identify your talents and your interests, explore the available resources that are available to you, and conduct in-depth career exploration, okay? All right. And then lastly, some things to kind of consider. I get this question a lot, not only in this class, but when working with students, kind of counseling one-on-one. How much does your major really matter for your career? And the truth is, it depends, right? It depends. There are some things, there are some careers where your major absolutely matters, right? If you were thinking about being a medical doctor, you cannot walk into a hospital with a history degree and be like, hey, I'm ready for surgery. Who are we cutting open today, right? Can't do that. So there are definitely some careers where, that was a terrible example. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was very targeted and poignant, and you get the point. There's some careers where your major absolutely matters, right? There's others where it doesn't necessarily matter as much, right? And so it's incumbent upon us to do that work to figure out how much we really, what we really need in order to achieve our goals and enter the field that we're hoping to enter, okay? 50 to 70% of college students change their major at least once during college, okay? This is a pretty high number. But I promise you that as long as you are changing your major informed, it's absolutely the right thing to do, okay? Also, what I hope this bullet point shows you is that you do not need to make this decision right now if you are not ready to make this decision right now, okay? What you do need to do is learn how to do the work in order to come to a decision. But it doesn't mean you have to make a decision right now. And so if you're thinking about 3 or 4 things and you just can't choose one, if by the end of this class you're like, I don't like the thing that I was thinking about at all anymore and I'm in love with this thing, that's supposed to happen, right? As long as you're changing your major informed and educated, change it, okay? 50% of seniors in college accept a job that's directly related to their major. Only 50%, which would mean that 50% of seniors end up entering a job that has nothing to do with their major, right? So again, depending on the career, the major can or cannot matter as much, okay? Within 10 years of graduating, most people are working in careers that are not related to their major at all. Within 10 years of graduating, most people are working in careers that are not related to their major at all. right? So you might have history professors working in business, or history majors, sorry, working in business. You might have business majors working at the museum, all kinds of different things, right? Many of the jobs that exist today will be very different 5 years from now, okay? And what I think this speaks to is really about the skills that you have, okay? When you're thinking about a major, what I would encourage you to consider is, what skills am I going to learn? What skills am I going to get from this major? And how do those things relate to work, right? If you are a history major, you are going to learn a lot of things about reading critically. Your writing skills are probably going to be really good. Your ability to kind of synthesize information is going to be really good. All of those things are absolutely crucial in any work that you do anywhere, right? And so thinking about the skills that you're going to get from the major is just as important in some cases as what you are learning in the class in terms of the relation of the major to your career, okay? So many students say that the skills that they gained in college are useful regardless of what their major is and regardless of what their career is, okay? So again, what I'm hoping to show you here is that this is not, information for us to be overwhelmed by. I don't want you to be burdened by the, having to make a decision about a major, and that if you choose something, there's no such thing necessarily as like the right or the wrong major. It's really just about what's the best fit for you right now, and how is that going to align with whatever your career goals are. Okay. All right. Thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed this workshop, this presentation, and then we're moving along here. So we're going to be starting with all of our assessments. I really think you guys are going to really enjoy these assessments and how just kind of insightful and reflective they can be. Make sure that you're looking through every single link on those modules. Make sure that you're responding to the discussion questions on time. Okay, really, really important is that it's part of your participation in the class. Okay, thank you, and we'll see you next time.